On January the 16th, 2012, the Fraser Institute came out with a study on the costs of bilingualism per year. The requirement for bilingualism at the federal and provincial level costs governments $2.4 billion per year, according to a new report from the Fraser Institute. And then the author, or one of the authors, François Vaillancourt, from the Université de Montréal, states, "The issue we examine in this study is not whether bilingualism is good or bad policy, but the costs above and beyond that of providing education and other services in the majority language." Well, I do want to examine whether bilingualism is good or bad policy. I want to consider the costs in human terms. What about the untold human costs of people not promoted on merit, but on linguistic ability? For example, every captain or major who could never be promoted in the armed forces because they couldn't or wouldn't learn French, or every person who wouldn't go into politics because they couldn't or wouldn't learn French. Demoralization at all levels of civilian and military hierarchy are the result of promotion, not on the basis of merit, but on linguistic ability. That's Canada, really, all style and no substance. The Ottawa regime was built on an appearance of linguistic ability to keep Quebec in Canada at all costs. Will bilingualism ever end? Not in Canada, my friends. Never in Canada, because Canada is basically elected in Quebec and Ontario, the two bilingual provinces. And they are, in fact, the largest cost of bilingualism every year, with Ontario costing $85 million a year for training. That's in government services, not in the private sector. And of course, what we have to think of, how could we solve this problem? Well, Western Canada is the only way we could solve the problem. Western Canada is an independent nation that would not be subject to the constitutional limits of the BNA Act and of all the ridiculous bilingualism decisions of the Supreme Court of Canada. Only in Western Canada with independence can we return to merit hiring. Only in Western Canada with independence can we return to achievement, growth, prosperity, and common sense. Think about WestJet, the one and only success story in the airline industry of any significance in the last 50 years. Where did it originate? In Calgary. You think we can't do better? And I remember being on the first flight out of Victoria, and I sat with none other than Clive Beddoe right beside me, the most humble and effective leader I have ever had the privilege to talk to personally. And you know what was going on? Not a word in bilingualism in the announcements on that first flight. And I thought, I wonder how long it'll be before the Ottawa bureaucrats dictate to WestJet the way they have to so many others. And now I find every flight is just as bilingual as Air Canada. And not only that, more and more French Canadians who are fluent in the first language are the air crew. And that's not the result of anything happening to give jobs to Western Canadians. That's preferential hiring because they're bilingual. And therefore, my friends, that's what happens. Jobs based on linguistic ability and not competence or familiarity with Western Canada, for that matter. So if WestJet could be an independent airline in an independent Western Canada, we wouldn't have bilingualism. And I have one final solution for WestJet and a suggestion. If there's one person on any aircraft presses a button that says, "We want service in French," fine, service in French. I'll bet you that most flights would never have a bilingual announcement, which is totally unnecessary. It's just a little frustration. It's a small part of the hundreds of millions of dollars over the last, well, 2.4 billion a year. It's a lot of millions every year. Through the last 40 years of my life, this monstrosity has cost us, say for 10 years, that's 240 billion. For 20 years, that's 480 billion. Think about it. And no one knows for sure, but that's not even the human cost. Bilingualism is one of the thorns in the side of any rational person. It's going to be equally bad for the United States when they get rolling on this English-Spanish thing that's growing everywhere from California to Texas. There needs to be one language for a country, and Western Canada is my country, and my language is English. Thank you. Free the West.